if you take the battery out of your phone, I can still listen to you. And where are we buying all the chips from?
China.
The opioids and all the depression and my anxiety about everything else and the PTSD and the TBI and everything on top of it. You're talking about a big ball of mental health issues.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's with a lot of veterans. And I pray that those veterans out there didn't have the childhood I had to make all of the other stuff start happening, because they're going to end up in the same boat that I was in. You'll end up going there. If you had everything I had in my life, it's a recipe for everywhere I went, you know? And that's all the stuff that I had to figure out. I had to figure it out the hard way, because none of those psychologists were helping out. They all wanted to make money off me. They wanted to write a book with me and be a millionaire. That was the book. It was a book that I hired a lawyer to try to stop. I didn't want that book to go out there. Partway through the writing of the book, I figured out what she was doing, and so I started fighting it. And half that book is her making stuff up. Damn. And nobody really knows about. You know, half the book is me, because I was giving her information, I was working with her. But then when I realized what was going on, then I got that lawyer to try to stop the book and try to do something else, or at least have me have the final say. You're a contributor, but it's my book. It's my life. What turned out was she wrote the contract and I signed it under the influence of booze and drugs and everything else. There was a chapter she actually wrote that never got put in a book about my drug use and about how bad I was. Because she knew where I was, she took advantage of it. You know, and I'm not saying I'm a total, kid that you're going to take advantage of in a really easy way, especially right now. But at that time in my life, I was in a really bad place.
Lots of veterans get taken advantage of when they're in that state.
Yeah.
Because it's not you.
It happens a lot.
It's
it wasn't
booze,
me at all.
it's benzos, it's antidepressants, it's mood enhancers, it's
So the first psychiatrist took advantage of me.
It's
and
PTSD.
She knew exactly what she was doing.
It's deep traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
So had you ever vocalized that?
No, I couldn't. I didn't know.
That was the first time you vocalized it after you retired to somebody?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, so what happened was I was at this huge meeting, and it was kind of in one of the areas where the Pentagon works in Crystal City. Like, we have skiffs all over the place. So we're in this place, I'm giving this big brief, and I'm sitting up there with who's the guy that wrote Accidental Gorilla? Really good dude, famous dude. He gave a talk on Accidental Gorilla, and then we had one of the SES-4s or 5. He was way up high, like big, and he was giving a talk. And then he had me giving a talk. So 3 of us were up there talking to this whole audience. And so at the time, it was like 2012, and I was talking about 3D printing. And I was talking about the failure of the FBI and a failure of ATF and a failure of everybody, because you guys are missing a point. You guys are doing all these laws and guns and all this other stuff. And I said, in about 10 years, I'll be 3D printing a gun in my basement. I said that in 2012, 13, somewhere right in there. For that, no, it was the end of 13, because it was just before I came out. So it would have been sometime in that time period. So I'd have to really think about it, and I could probably give you the exact time. But and I told him a lot of other stuff, and I said, this is the future. And I said, if you guys aren't starting to look at where the future is going and what we're doing with technology, and you're starting to do it right now, then you guys are going to miss the boat. And I gave him a lot of things like the 3D printed gun, and I was talking to him about 3D printing pharmaceuticals and about this. And I said, I could do all that stuff into my basement. And I said, pretty soon. I said, I've already 3D printed, and I'm doing all this other stuff. And so this stuff, it's not rocket science. You know, if I can 3D print, I can load up all these tubes with these different things. You know, I can load them up with pharmaceutical, grade this, and I can do them down in the micro stuff, because we were already doing some super micro stuff that I could talk to you about. That's like, if you take the battery out of your phone, I can still listen to you. In the old days when you took the batteries out, you take the batteries out and think you're good, and you go in there and skiff, and you can talk about whatever you want. Oh, I could still listen to you.
Yeah.
We were doing stuff that you could never find what we were doing, ever, and you never will. And it's in every piece of equipment right now, in every chip right now, there's stuff. And where are we buying all the chips from?
China. Taiwan.
Yeah. So, and I was talking about all this stuff back in like 12, 13 time period. So I was with my buddy, and he's a D-boy from Bragg, a really good dude. He passed away a little while ago. But one of my best friends, you know, and Dave, Hugh was awesome. And he was one of my mentors. And I was kind of one of his mentors sometimes too, because it was simpatico, and we would help each other out and really do stuff. It was the best, like, tech team. And it was me and him, and it was about 5 other people on our tech team. And he give us, that little group, this carnivore group, if you give our carnivore group any problem in the world, we'll solve it. You know, Steve Vogel is one of those guys, you know, and there's a bunch of other guys. But he saw the psychiatrist, and he knew this person was a PTSD military expert in PTSD. This psychiatrist, that's what she does. And he talked to her and says, hey, my buddy there, you know, Chris, he's been going through a lot, and I'm afraid for his life. And he started going into some of the stuff about what me and him talked to about slightly, just soft, you know. He never knew about the other stuff. And so the psychologist started talking to me, and I was like, yeah. I said, I have a lot of stuff going on. And I said, I definitely have some PTSD, and I have this, and I have that. I said, but there's this too. And I showed her a picture of me dressed up. And she was like, hey, let's meet tomorrow and talk about this more, and let's do that. And then the next day is when she started saying, you know, we could write a book, and we could be millionaires. And that was pretty much it.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Just one conversation.
Yeah. Well, it was the next day. So that night during that thing, It was a huge event. I had people all over me because I got, like, as soon as I give one of those talks, and they realized that I could fix their stuff, or I talked about something, they say, that was really interesting. You know, let's talk about that more. Like the Iron Man stuff and the nuclear batteries and a lot of other stuff that I was working on, you know. It was fission, which was the problem. But we're doing other stuff now, so we fixed it, so it's not a big deal. But when they realize that I work on all this stuff, they want to talk to me, and they want to say, and set up further meetings and figure some stuff out. And then even bring me in and say, hey, just want you to consult. So at that time, I was doing consulting $500 an hour, you know. If you bring me in for a couple of hours, it was $1,000 for me. You know, 2 hours is $1,000 for me in those days, you know, if I was doing any consulting for any of those other groups. And it all fell apart at that point, because then I showed her that, and then she started talking to me and started doing all the other stuff. And then I was like, I don't care. I said, I'm probably going to be dead soon.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.